Hello, everyone. Dr. Karen Can here, and with me is one of our TOLPAKAN certified practitioners, Beth Butler, and I'm really excited today to interview her about her journey to becoming a healer. And we will post near this video below some links that if you feel resonant with Beth and would like to have a session with her or a series of sessions, a package, you can check out her links below and get to know her, and we'll find out more about how to do that later. So welcome, Beth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you're here today. Now, you haven't always been a healer professionally, right? So tell us about your journey to becoming a healer.
No, yeah. So I have a long background in education, in public education and in higher education in the private sector. And yeah, at some point in time, I really felt stuck. I felt some major burnout, and I felt literally, I was saying to myself, I'm losing my soul. And I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I needed to kind of reconnect with myself. So I stepped away, and that afforded me the opportunity to start exploring some of the options for healing, self-healing. And I did a lot of, master classes and online work. This was during the pandemic. And so we were sort of isolated, and I took advantage of a lot of those offerings that were being made. And during that time, then I came across your work, which really resonated with me. So I think I saw you on some telesummits and read your book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower, and started doing the mini healings and found them to be so fun and helpful and interesting. I have to admit, I was new to healing, so sometimes some of the things that came up made my eyes pop and my head twitch. But I was fascinated, and really more than many of the other healing modalities, it resonated with me because it was something I could do for myself, learn to do
Mm.
for myself. So that was really the key for me that brought me into this community.
Oh, that's fantastic. And we're really happy to have you in our community. And of course, one of our Topacan level one mentors now in our community. Did you have any like physical issues? Like, why did you feel like you needed some sort of self-healing aside
Oh,
from feeling stuck?
well, yeah, in those later years, the final years of my career in academia, my thyroid went absolutely crazy,
Mm.
went to both ends of the spectrum, was bouncing around. And in addition to that, really from my teenage years, I had had some irregularities with my heart rhythm. And it was one of those things where I'd gone in for like the whole battery of tests, and they didn't find anything. And on at different times across time, I had gone in for some conventional help. And one time I was headed to the ER, and it stopped along the way. So they weren't going to like catch it live. Another time I went to a practitioner, and they sent me home with a monitor, and it wasn't working. So I really became a little bit disillusioned with trying to find a solution that wasn't at my hands. So yeah, Topocan helped me with that.
Okay. So the symptoms you were having was this heart thing. And did you, I don't know if you remember because it was a while ago, but was there something in like when you discovered like in your inquiry that something that really highlighted for you, maybe a cause or contributor of that heart issue?
Right. Well, one of the things that I did come across was, I think it once I learned to look at, like, let's say a medical model of the heart, the anatomy of the heart and different parts of it. And I think I actually went down to is it neurocyte level? It was something, a cellular level of some sort. And I think I found an implant, and I'm like, wow. So that really did help at that point to start clearing some of that out. I'm sure that there have been many layers of clearing since then.
Okay, yeah. Well, since you hadn't come from a so-called, energy healing background, being in education, being a Spanish teacher, right? Some of the stuff we talk about in Topic and healing is pretty darn weird. So how did you handle all that?
Yeah, well, I think, my background in language studies and traveling in different cultures really gave me a chance to open my mind to other ways of thinking. So I think historically, I really was open to well, I wasn't more of the mindset that if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. I was more of the mindset, well, maybe it does exist. So, I think I was just more open because of some of those academic trainings, interestingly enough, in culture and languages. And yeah, I think it just kept me a little more open-minded about possibilities.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yes, if you're exposed, right, to other cultures and other, ways of being and everyday things. I remember when I had someone from Trinidad, and she says, everyone's very religious here. So if I, say I'm a healer or something like that, I could be considered doing black magic, which is like the opposite of what she was doing, right? So
Right,
it's very
right,
interesting that the culture and what they talk about. Because in America, I mean, the average person doesn't talk about black magic. Like it's
right, right.
not even on their radar. Whereas in those cultures, they're like, it's an everyday thing.
Absolutely. I grew up in the Midwest, so it probably was not as much of my conversation. But in my first adult job, I was living in South Florida. And so I did come into contact with cultures that were practicing other arts, let's say.
Ah,
Eh,
interesting, interesting. So,
Yeah.
what made you decide to get certified in level 2?
Wow. So in level 1, I experienced such a great amount of healing for myself, and I was able to work on some friends and family through that. And I thought, there's such a beauty in this modality, and I really wanted to be able to pursue it professionally and to be able to expand my reach of helping people. Um,
Mm.
so I think by becoming certified and being able to do it professionally, it kind of extends my reach to help bring people into the light.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Do you miss the academia at all?
I miss some of my students. I miss some of the experiences and the relationships, and I haven't really traveled, but that's a lot of that has to do with just haven't renewed my passport since we've been confined, and that will happen again. So there's a few aspects I miss of it, but most of all, I'd have to say that there is life after academia,
Oh, that's great.
a very beautiful
Now,
life.
that's awesome. Could you maybe name or share maybe 2 positive experiences you've had with being in Topacan training?
Uh, the level 2 specifically, I would say, brought me to a place of self-compassion, self-acceptance, transparency, um, where uh, I think there was such a great component, especially when we went through the practitioner potential, to do character education. And I really just savored it and took it to heart and did that self-healing. And so I think that was really a good chance to be transparent with myself and with others, and know that it was okay not to be perfect. In academia, when you go all the way to the doctoral level, there's a lot of pressure to be perfect. So I think that was one really positive aspect of the level 2 training. And then the other thing I would say is the cohort of colleagues is just amazing, right? Having an accountability partner, and just building that relationship for supporting each other. We have learned, I think I can speak on behalf of my colleagues, that we've learned that we need each other sometimes, and that when we work together, we're really stronger. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. I love the way, your class helped each other, supported each other, became each other's accountability partners. Of course, that's required in level 2, but you guys did it so beautifully. And my understanding is that you've continued those valuable relationships even after, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Only sometimes a few days go by that we're not in contact, but it's quite frequent. So it's really beautiful.
And I think some of you met each other as well, even though we're from all over.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had the opportunity to meet Holly in person. I haven't had the opportunity to meet Cindy and Karen in person yet, but they're really wonderful humans.
Yeah, I loved you guys in class. It was just so fun having you all, such great, beautiful people. Now, let's talk a little bit about challenges. Did you have any challenges, or maybe you could share, honestly, authentically, what kind of challenges did you personally experience in the level 2 program?
Right. You're going to love this. Timing was a challenge for me. I'm a timing
Wow.
person. And so sometimes the timing of the course and my personal timing wasn't always in flow. But I learned to um, accept that as being okay, that I was where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be. So I
Mm,
just, worked it out, found the balance. And yeah, I did a lot of self healing during that time. I had to do also a lot of non-self healing. I had a lot of soul activity come up during the months of the course, and that was really challenging to figure out, why is this happening? But fortunately, I had a lot of support from my colleagues, my cohort, to help me through that. So that was a challenge. And then the other thing I would specifically mention, I probably had some timing issues and challenges with the business modules, because I don't have a background in business, and because I was a fairly new healer student. Um, I had to go back and kind of clear out some blocks and subconscious programming related to business, and then trying to envision and put together some plans. That was a little challenging for me because I hadn't had any experience to go with. So I was working from a clean slate. So yeah, I had
mm,
to just revisit and kind of change up the timing to work for me, and go back to modules and bring them up multiple times, and go back through them. And yeah, and I'm sure that at some point in time here, I'll be digging them out again to say, okay, here, now it's time to work on this again. So the
yeah,
resources
if I recall, there was some, family stuff going on as well.
yeah, I've had some, yes, I've definitely had some family issues. I have some elderly parents, so they've needed a little bit of time in the last couple years. So yeah, but it's all a matter of working it out and balance, and it seems to
That's
come back
great.
to stability at some point.
Yes, and it seemed like every time there would be a challenge, it felt like you were digging down into the work,
Right.
instead of making an excuse like I can't do the work because of this. You were like, okay, I'm gonna dig down and do actually the work. What is there that I can heal related to whatever's going on? And that's why I was like really impressed with some of the process that you went through.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I found this to be an opportunity. I know when I was trying to finish my doctorate, there were some really hard deadlines that I really had to meet. And so probably I didn't always have the opportunity to really savor the moment and kind of live
Mm.
through it and enjoy it. But I did that with this course. I dug into it, and I said, okay, what's not working here, and what can I clear out? And how happy is my relationship with this? And then you're like, oh my goodness, I do have things to clear out. So but that's what it's all about. It's a daily process of being honest and transparent, and working through it.
Yeah, it's really neat. I love seeing the transformation of people through the 6 months that we're together. And it's like we can't even guess what's going to happen necessarily. We know that there's
Right.
a process. I know that there is an evolution, but for each person, it's different. And yeah, when you talked about the business stuff, not having a business background, I think most of our healers don't necessarily have a business background. Some have been doing healing work for a while, but most haven't. And I would say is like it's better to learn it the right way than to do it the wrong way, and then butt up against the way you used to do it.
Right. 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 Well, and a
Yeah.
couple of our cohort members did have some experience, and they were really supportive in that way. Sometimes it was just simple to what to them would be a simple nuts and bolts question about business. But when you're from a different background, it can just seem like a big blur. So it was really wonderful to have their support as well.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, and in the program, I think it's important to get into the practical aspects as well. Although I could say a lot of like, let's just say light workers sometimes shun that piece, or judge it as unnecessary or judge it as too corporate or whatever. We did our best to to really make it not like that. That piece. And so it's great that you were able to work through that and very positively too. Do you have any
Right.
cool case studies you can share with us?
Oh, I had so many cool case studies that I'd like to share, but the one that I would like to definitely highlight today is a woman that I worked with. We were guided to do the empathic assessment for her, this empathic assessment protocol, and she was empathizing with a handful of different targets. One of them happened to be a deceased ex-spouse,
Hmm.
and she was having unpleasant dreams, I would say, almost to the point of nightmares. And we determined he had been gone many years, and we determined that he was sort of stuck and hadn't really crossed over. And so we crossed him over. And not only did her sleep improve and the dreams just went away, it was immediate that they went away. She also quit smoking. And
Wow.
that was not one of our that was not one of our target goals. That wasn't even on our radar at the time. But afterwards, months afterwards, when she told me this, she said, he really liked the smell of smoke. But once he was gone, I had no desire to smoke. So it was a triple win. Her sleep got better, she quit smoking, and he's hopefully peacefully traveling on his now spiritual journey instead of having to feel stuck and hanging around her. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Well, obviously, you're pretty comfortable dealing with entities. So, can you share with us the kind of person that would be a good fit for you? Is it someone that has some entity issues or an other type of person? Like, what's the best avatar for someone to work with you?
Well, yeah, I have worked with some folks with entities, and um, thankfully to one of my colleagues, I just learned it's just energy. So we bless it, we send it on, and we bring in some better energy. And I worked with one man who, once I cleared them off, he said, literally, I'm sitting outside and it just got brighter out here. you know
Mm,
so I have done that work. What I have found, I think most of I would say I would categorize most of the people I've worked with in two categories. One, I've worked with a lot of people that have not yet really come into the healing community, but they happen to be very high responsibilities, spiritual responsibilities, but they haven't, and they have a sense of it, but they haven't really identified what that is. So I worked with a few people like that, and that was really beautiful to kind of bring them in and talk about their soul types. And they're like, oh, I knew it, I knew there was something, but they hadn't had the exposure or the experience to be able to identify what it was. And then I would say the other kind of subgroup I've worked with, a lot of people like myself, I think, that get stuck, or they feel like something's off, they don't really feel like themselves. Some of these are self healers, and but they can't identify really what's going on. So I mean, that's when we have the opportunity to use our TOLPAKAN tools, and try to figure out what is it that is invisible to them, but we can make visible, and say, hey, it looks like it's this, and let's see if we can clear it out and make it better for you. So I think those are the type of people that really either I've been drawn to or they've been drawn to me. um, yeah.
okay. Yes. And well, when we were talking during the program about branding, and different kinds of things. What did you decide on? Did you decide on something?
Yeah, as far as what I call myself.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to share that? That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
cool.
So um, I the best way I could describe to some of the people that I know that are really not part of the healing community, I call myself the Bruja Buena, the good witch. So it just feels right, it feels like it kind of respects my experience with the, Spanish language and the Hispanic communities. And, I feel like we are working for the good, and we can do things that help people. And yeah, it feels a little witchy at times, in a really fun and good way. But I love that everything we do is for the good. So, yeah.
That's cool. Now, do you do sessions in English and Spanish?
I have some of my sessions I have done in Spanish or with primary Spanish speaking people. And it can be a little challenging to explain some of the really abstract concepts that we have, through the guides that we come up with. And sometimes while I'm doing the healing, I'll stay in English because I've practiced it in English, but then I'm able to, have good conversations with them about, what it is they want to work on, and explain, in general terms, if not all the specifics, kind of what we're doing, that we're clearing things out, and that we're kind of upgrading their software, like you would do on your phone, and bringing in good energies, or, we have messages. So yes, I am open to working with Spanish speaking clients for sure.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I think your education background's super helpful as well, since you've had such a long time in it, because you're able to distill the information in a more digestible way for the average person, I would think.
Right. Yeah. I'm not trying to explain Tolpakan at the dissertation level, but it would maybe be the Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 level. So I can, I have experience in breaking it down to keep it as, as clear as possible. And sometimes it's really beautiful when we don't have to know all the details. It's swift and simple that way as well. But yes, yeah, I would love to work with English or Spanish speaking clients.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. So what happens if someone is interested in working with you? What are the steps involved to
Right.
figure out?
Well, I do have they can book, either email me or book with Calendly, and we'll do a 30-minute discovery call. We can meet on Zoom and, talk about what they're interested in. I can, go over my programs, my packages that I offer, and, just get to know each other, so we make sure that we are a good fit for working together. I think it's in any case, but especially with someone who is new to the healing community, it's really important to have a sense of comfort and trust and confidence in the person, because, you're opening up your energies to work together. And you really, if it's something you're not familiar with, it really helps when you trust someone. So yeah, we want to make sure that we have a good fit. And yeah, and then we can go ahead and work on setting up sessions after that.
Okay, that sounds good. So we'll post that information near this video, so people can contact you if they feel like they'd like to chat with you. And is that first discovery call, is that a complimentary call? Is that a paid call?
That is a complimentary call. Yes, we want to
Okay.
make sure that it's the best for both of us before we start working.
Okay, that's fantastic. And last but not least, if you had a piece of key advice for people on their healing journey from your perspective, what would that be?
Yeah, I think I would say invest in yourself, whether it's time or resources. It may be money, it may be other resources, it may be time, whatever it is. Invest in yourself, because it's your best shot at this life. And we may have many lives to deal with, but this time we're dealing with this one. So yeah, invest in yourself, whether it's time, self-care, or other resources. It's definitely worth the investment. You are worth the investment.
That is fantastic. So I totally agree with that one. That's a biggie for me as well. So Beth, thank you so much. I guess I should be calling you Dr. Beth Butler, right?
If you'd like to, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Matt. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your wisdom and your journey. It's just so beautiful to see, and so very encouraging and inspiring for others as well. And thanks everyone, whoever is listening in or watching. Again, I'll put the links near this video on how you connect with Beth if you would like to. And yeah, so again, thank you very much, Beth. And thanks everyone for watching and tuning in. Bye for now.
Thank you, Dr. Karen.
My pleasure.